the early dawn of Wednesday the 15th of December 2021, 4 CannaClub members decided to hit the road to Johannesburg as part of the next installment of our CannaCruise series. Our mission is simple: to visit the existing private social clubs in the area and speak to some of the crew members to discover more what the scene is all about. Our journey starts here in Bowtie Drive in Plettenberg Bay at 3 a.m. en route to Divan's house in Pretoria, where we were to be accommodated for the next 7 days. Enjoy the episode and don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button.
So it's 3 o'clock, Wednesday the 15th. We're in front of Centurion village. You can see a little bit of nothing here.
Yeah, it's still early.
Turn up the brightness.
The whole town is still sleeping.
So we've got a very long road ahead of us, headed to Pretoria Centurion from here. It is about a 12.5-hour drive, ne?
Yeah. If you don't stop a lot, then it's like 12.5 hours. If you stop a lot, then it can be
like 15. Yes, Harry, you look good in the dark, my bro.
Shake your focus. Disturbing the peace.
Almost there.
Do it. I like the way you do that right there. Switch your hips when you walk and let down your hair. I like the way you do that right there. Switch your hips when you talk and let down your hair. Girl, why you do that right there? Shit so bad, I'm constantly getting calls from the mirror.
Oh, guys. Boom. I think it's the light of the garage, though.
It's the moon. It's the sun. No, it's just the garage. Allemaal is hier, allemaal is reg. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we will be landing in Johannesburg.
Have a safe flight, Owens.
Welcome aboard flight 420. This is your pilot speaking. Buckle down, it's gonna be a bumpy ride.
Ons is nou weer in die donker, load shedding, boys. To be continued. Featuring Eskom.
Let's go, boys.
Make the ballers wanna stir. Sky has a naughty boots line with the fur. Walk with a switch, pull it over, make it twerk. I'ma flirt till it hurt in a throwback skirt. I'm that bad box beans on blade. Rocks on my wrist like pink lemonade. Keep your watches and your rings. Tell them other girls, the mama rockin' strings. Pearls, I'm back for my crown, fake bow down. It's the remix, what you wanna do now? I know you like the way we do this over her. Get loose in the club like we just don't care.
8 hours later.
So we're now in Free State. Been in the road for many hours. Yeah, more than halfway, just past halfway, I'd say, eh?
I gotta say, my backside is feeling it.
En route to Bloemfontein now. Well, hy sal weer uit. Preparing for his next shift. Lekker, it's
6.5 hours later.
in the middle of fucking nowhere, guys. Where are we now? In the set of Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Ja, by Beaufort West.
30
kilos weg van Beaufort West af. We're getting there, man. Yeah. Getting through it.
Almost there.
Is Beaufort West al naby aan Joburg?
Julle nog pakken. It's net voor Joburg.
Oh.
You guys still enjoying the trip?
40 k's away from Kroonstad.
Yeah.
We're almost there. Another 2 hours left. And we'll be at his house. Woo!
A few inches later.
After a long journey on the road, we eventually reached our destination safely. We were warmly welcomed by Divan's father, Mr. Kobus van Loggerenberg, who would host us during our stay in Centurion. Not only did Kobus provide us with spectacular hospitality, but he also donated equipment to the Canna Club to use during our Canna Cruise series in Johannesburg. The very same day we arrived at Divan's house was also the same day that he received his graduation certificate from Chiba
I
Africa.
told them send it here, I'll probably get there the day that it's here. So those are your Chiba certificates that arrived on the same day that we got here.
That's planning for you, bro.
Crazy.
Good story, eh?
Unboxing of the Chiba certificate. Yes, this unboxing is going to take a while, by the way. The unbubbling. Yeah, they collaborated with Eminem, Tupac, Dr. Dre, all the best rappers in the world. Yes, nice.
Yes.
Beautiful, Divan. Well done. Woo. Congratulations, eh?
Take a bow. Take a bow.
The next day.
Morning, ouds.
Yeah, good morning, good morning. Another day, another dawn, eh? So, yeah, today we're going to go to two places. We're going to Tiny Town. What's the other one's name?
Crossroads Lounge.
Crossroad Lounge. So, yeah, super excited. We made it safe here to Centurion yesterday. It was a long road. We left 3 o'clock in the morning. We got here last night at 7. Just past 7, we drove in here. So it was a good, 14 hours, 15 hour
Drive.
But yeah, all safe, no problems on the road, everything went smooth, and super excited to be here with Divan and them in Centurion.
Alright, Divan Vanesh.
They've opened their house to us, their humble abode, and yeah, it's lovely here. Awesome place.
So can you tell our viewers a little bit more about our plans in Joburg? What are we going to do here?
So yeah, basically we're here for 7 days, and we've got a bunch of places we want to go see. 2 places more or less every day. Some days we only do 1 because it's a bit more in depth. But we want to just expose these places, show people that other people are doing it as well, and that there's a lot of activity in the industry at the moment.
Cannabis sphere, yeah.
So yeah, this is the goal, and also for us to just widen our vision and see what's everyone up to and how they're doing it, going about it, to just hone down on our own techniques. So the plan for this whole trip is 2 things basically. It's to expose and give some exposure to the
Create
clubs,
some awareness around the clubs,
some
yeah.
awareness, and then also for us to take some of the techniques back home and implicate it ourselves.
Fantastic.
This is the dream, this is the goal. And so far so good. Today's day 1, so we'll see after today how it's going. Day 1.
Wish us luck, guys. Stay tuned. Enjoy the trip.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you. Big shout out to Mr. Kobus there for hosting us. It's been excellent. You've made this trip very possible. And to Divan there as well for accommodating us. Thank you very much. Fanasio for coming around all the way from Namibia.
From Namibia.
Yeah, man.
Representing.
Yeah, so we're all ready for this trip. We're about to pack our stuff, head in the car, and head off to our first destination, Tiny Town. Here we come. Tiny Town, first stop.
Is it hierdie? Yeah.
The tour. Could be. Let's check in here.
Hierdie lyk so klapperig.
Yeah, this looks almost like a club with a closed
Ja,
door.
nee, vrienden is vir Tiny Town.
Where does it say?
Hier agter, daar's 'n bord daar.
Gif.
Dit wat daar in woon.
Okay, gaan ons daai dinge agter uithaal. Boys,
And we are here.
Nice.
Fanasio daar.
Tiny Town. Here we go.
Tiny Town, first stop. Entrance to Tiny Town.
welcoming, open style. That's exactly what we love. We never want to turn people away and make them feel weird. Make them feel like they're part of the family immediately. That's the first energy that I sensed there, and it was very, very cool.
Yeah, so now we're going to show you the shop. And,
yeah, we're signing in.
Yeah, we're signing in as members.
And just making sure all the paperwork is ready. And then they're going to take us for a little walk through and all the good stuff.
Yeah, we're going to check out the members area. This is the front face of the little shop. Got some awesome products here which we'll walk around now and show everyone. Let's just sign in first.
In vrede woede het ek die hand wat beheer gebyt, verwyd myself op harder en harder grond neergesmyt. Dis nou ek wat die leiband lei.
Hey man, how's it?
My grip op my geloof, klip gereeld. My wonder waar, geneesing kom vandaan. Soet slaap sonder sonde, soet slaap sonder sonde, soet slaap sonder sonde.
Cheer me as these grow products. Julle is mos die groeikoppe. Sien julle goed waarvan julle hou?
Hydromixes, pH up, pH down, microbes, all the good stuff.
Miskien is niks soos wat jy dink dit is. Nie jou greep op jou geloof, glip gereeld. Jou wonder waar, geneesing kom vandaan. Soet slaap sonder sonde vanaand.
Okay, sweet.
Wil jy in my slaap? Wil jy? Nee, maar dit is een van ons locals. Ja, jy weet wat ek het net iets gejoin 'n maand nadat ek opgemaak het. Dus ek het gejoin 'n maand nadat ek opgemaak het.
Okay, en hoe lank is die plek nou oop?
Van laas jaar op Polen.
Laas jaar op Polen.
Dan het die meeste members van al die vrouwen afgeplaas.
Okay, ek het net gesê hulle was ons by 3000 en toe moes hulle.
Ja, dis nou die opens op die. So hulle het originally begin met die DVD. So hulle hier net van hierdie vrou af, soos hulle sê, is 'n awesome neighbor. Dit is 'n warm en so net mooi hier agter. En dan hulle kom by, so dis die dames van Wicked Delicious. So hulle maak jy moet regtig eet as jy hier is, met kos is phenomenal.
Okay, great guys. Now we know where to eat our lunch. Yeah, lunch is geboek, ja.
Ja, basically dan check it. En dan kyk staan, so af en aan
Big one bar.
Ons het goed begin, ek wil die pijn voorbaat duidelik maak. Ek denk nie, ek ben dit nie, lief vir my mense, probeer om nie daad nie. Nog nooit gewend, my pad minder geld gemaakt nie. Wat
All right.
No, it's going.
Lekker Lourie, thank you so much for joining us here with our channel. It's still a baby channel, a young channel. So we really appreciate it when people are willing to speak and when they're open, you know. So Lourie here is, he's not part of Tiny Town, but he's been elected to speak on their behalf.
Yeah,
you know?
pretty much.
So thank you very much, Lourie.
Not a problem at all, boys.
And would you mind just introducing yourself and just saying a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Lourie Campher. I run a company called Ninth Wive. We are a cannabis recruitment company looking to create jobs in the South African or African cannabis market and hemp market. I've been a member of Tiny Town for almost a year now. Stefan Nieuwoudt is a good friend of mine, and so I have a firm understanding of the club structure and model, and I've been involved in other clubs as well. So,
yes, yes, and immediately from the moment that we walked in here, we could see that it almost seemed like you were one of the crew.
I'm basically part of the furniture.
You are the crew, right?
It's just a very nice setting. I conduct a lot of my meetings here just to show people a practical setting for what a cannabis club could be. I think there's a lot of stigmas around what people think happens in these clubs, and I think it's nice to show them that it's civil, it's clean, it's nice, it's professional.
Yeah,
it's functional. There's food available.
Exactly, and it fosters a very nice community of people that come here on a daily basis that enjoy being here. It's a safe space. I mean, we've had people that come here even if they don't smoke cannabis because they enjoy the tranquil setting.
The atmosphere of this
very
place,
nice, yeah.
Clean and nice, and no one's in anyone's face or anything like that.
Exactly, and they're just trying to set a good standard. You understand? Like Pretoria is a very busy city. They obviously get a lot more traffic than most of the other clubs based on their location. So it's very good for them to kind of set a good precedent as what a club standard should be for when they visit the other Goa clubs who also are very good standard.
Yes.
It just sets a good precedent going forward.
This place is top shelf.
They put a lot of effort into
see
this place, yeah.
From us being here for the last half an hour or whatever it is, a lot of people have been
A lot of
coming
movement,
through.
yeah.
There's a lot of people here and everyone's happy and stoked, So how long has this place been open?
Since last year, April, I think.
April.
Yes.
So it's relatively new, but very, very got there quick,
It's a natural flow. I think good cannabis users bring other good cannabis users. So a lot of these clubs don't actively market themselves, which is great. I think it should have a natural growth. I know for a fact Stefan and them spent about 3 weeks when this place opened and no one came. And then slowly but surely people came. And now they and they have a nice base. I think it's very important for clubs to look at rather having a small amount of committed members than a bunch of members that just come every now and again. I think your expenditure per member is really good when you look at it from how much time they spend here, the engagement.
It's mostly word of mouth that travels, and that's the most powerful marketing that you can have.
Exactly.
There's positive word of mouth.
Very organic.
Something that I'm picking up here that's important is, as Lourie says, you should create a space where your members can actually sit down and be comfortable. It shouldn't be like an old traditional dealer, just drop and go, pick up your cannabis at the bud bar and leave. It should be an actual functional space where you can enjoy the culture with the other members.
I'm all for a model like this progressing to the point where they can do deliveries, but to members that are actively part of the community. I don't think you can have a social club without a social aspect. You understand? It needs to be more than just an internet forum. And what I've come to realize with all these clubs is there's literally people from all walks of life that walk to these clubs, and they literally feel welcome. They feel inclusive.
It's actually a great place to meet people from different walks of life.
I've met some of the most interesting people, and people that have actually become some of my good friends, and people that I'll be friends with for a very long time. So
and do you know how Stefan and them got to the point where they decided, okay, cool, let's open Tiny?
So they are very good friends of Kobus. They've walked a long road with him, and then obviously when he started growing Africa, I think he reached out to them and said, listen, he's doing this, and they obviously opted to ask, listen, can they set up the club here? As I've previously shown you, they started very small, and they grew very passively.
Yes.
And that's the nice thing about it. And they run a tight ship.
They run a very tight ship.
Notch.
I mean, you can just see by the amount of stuff they have on their menu, it's very, very, how can I say,
but even the paperwork,
diverse.
because I spend a lot of time here, I get to see a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and it's very important that people understand how much work it goes into running a place like this. Everyone sees the glitz and the glamour. Oh God, opening a cannabis club. There's a lot of work that goes into it.
There's a lot of grunt work.
No, it's just the compliance, because at the end of the day, you want good data. Do you understand? You want to make sure that there's no discrepancies. That's why if you're not a member at one of these clubs for longer than 3 months, you have to redo your whole membership again.
Yeah.
So they want to make sure that every member's needs are met, obviously, and that they're here for the right reasons.
I like that. That might even be something we'll incorporate there at the CannaClub, so that we can have our active.
You have to. Ultimately, yes, these clubs are still navigating in a grey area, but what they're doing now is they're building really good primary data. So when it does come to the point where there are discussions around this club, people like you guys and Grown Africa can put your data down and say it's not a hypothesis anymore. We have factual information. If this model has been running for the last year and a half, this is the amount of people that we've employed. This is the amount of people that we've helped. This is the beautiful track record we have. We have full traceability of every single gram coming in and out of our clubs. Like, what more can you ask for?
Yes, 100%.
And ultimately, what I imagine it should be is it should be a regulatory model with a self-regulatory model. So let's say you have an entity. I don't want to call it SAPRA because I don't think SAPRA should be managing something like this. But every single cooperative, whether it's you guys, Grow in Africa, or Fields of Green, should register to this entity, right? And they should pay a monthly membership or fee or whatever, which will stimulate the cash flow for this business so they can actually employ people.
And standardize
everything. And ultimately what should happen is every... Hey?
They'll always
But it's not about competition. If that's a government
we
regulated
introduce him on the camera quickly while we're
every
running?
single cooperative, whether you are in Shushanguve or here, even if you're
This is Stefan.
like a department,
He's the
ultimately,
mastermind
right?
behind all of this that you see here. And this place looks really good.
Yo,
Stefan,
imagine
you guys
the
have done an
department of
amazing
Thank
job
you very
here.
much.
Yeah, thanks for hosting us yesterday.
Yeah, still lots more to come. So this is only the beginning.
Early
Stefan,
days, eh?
Stefan has that sickness where he can't sit still.
busy.
Yeah, let's quickly build a mini ramp.
Yeah.
Build this.
To give you an idea, this was built in about 4 days. This whole thing took him about, this with the hammocks and everything was about 2 weeks.
Big
Of
indoor
literally-
joint and you just...
No.
Blood, sweat and tears.
This is blood, sweat and tears and a lot of wood.
We do everything ourselves.
Yeah.
There's a lack
The
of space
woodwork
on
inside there,
Centurion.
Laurie was mentioning that you do all of that woodwork as well, eh?
Yeah.
Everything, and it
Yes,
looks
yeah, the
mint and
counters,
clean. eh?
everything. Yes.
I need a job. I'm a banker.
So to get back to my point, what I ultimately think should happen is this entity should audit, let's say for example, the head office of Grow in Africa, right? No problem. And if they find any discrepancy, right, that should be handled internally. So there shouldn't be someone rocking up at these clubs, I'm coming here for an audit. It should be noted that something's wrong from head office and the club needs to fix it. And then once it's remedied, that report should be sent back to this, and that's how they should manage it, in my personal opinion. And not overcomplicate it. For audits. Audit, yeah. So imagine Grow in Africa has a head office. Every 6 months, they're audited by this entity, right? They go through all the paperwork, all the growing compliancy, everything. If they find something, a discrepancy of some kind, it should be noted and should be handled within the cooperative. So that these guys don't have to send their people out to the clubs or the growers and say, hi, I'm here for an audit. Because that's more manpower, more money that needs to be spent into that office. Those people should technically not even leave the office.
Yeah.
You understand? You should submit your paperwork, they should come for one inspection, check that everything's fine, then you should leave you be. And if anything is picked up, they should audit it and fixed and sent back, and that's it, in my opinion. So yeah, we really hope that this will be the way forward, because this model is great for artisanal growing as well. What people forget is you can't only have a market where every single grower has to grow commercially. What about the guys that just want to grow for, a small income? And that's what's great about these clubs. It's offering guys a chance to do this full time in a manageable level.
In a compliant space.
In a compliant space.
They're making it readily available for a lot of people across the country.
And the nice thing is, you must understand one thing. As a recruiter like myself, right, it's very hard to find growers who can grow and understand compliance, who have done paperwork, who've done photo reporting. In these clubs, you are not allowed to grow if you are not doing these compliance checks in the first place. So it's inherently teaching people to be more admin orientated when it comes to compliant growing. So if they ever want to scale into a commercial setting, they already have a firm understanding of what's needed for the compliance. So it's ultimately a great pedestal for guys to get to the next level.
Are people allowed to bring their own weed to this club?
To any club, yes, as long as it's not by the kilo. But yes, you are allowed to consume your own cannabis.
Like we are doing now.
Like you are doing now.
Don't go stand in the door and...
But what about the ones that for the club, like at the shelf?
What about them?
Like bring a strain.
What, for them to grow for you?
If you as a grower want to...
You can.
You register as a growing member, a cultivating member.
You have to be a
deal with
member
the
for
logistics
6
of,
months.
Building other clubs, unless I want to.
No, if you are a member at a club for 6 months, then you can apply for as a cultivating member, which
You
I
still
think
have
is
to
amazing.
do all the standards.
So guys can't just come in, because obviously when people heard of these clubs, they were like, all these black market guys, like, great way to dump our bud. Like, it was like, and you were like, no, if you don't have compliance, we can't take a single gram.
Yeah.
You understand? And they don't understand that concept.
Full traceability.
Full
And all
traceability.
that
You understand?
stuff.
And the fact that you're forcing these guys to be a member for 6 months first to show that they're actually committed to being part of this
Yeah, and
club
growing the social
instead of just
environment,
growing and
you know.
dumping. It's great because the guys that really give a shit, are the guys that stay.
Yeah.
Do you know that? And it's inherently setting a standard, because what's happening is the growers are sending their bud to these clubs, right? And it's not moving, and they're like, oh, I wonder why it's moving, why it's not moving. So they get here and they see what the competition is, and then they inherently want to up their game. Do you understand?
Yeah.
It's a healthy competition.
Yes,
It is.
and the nice thing is it's creating opportunity for all kinds of growers. You think that the guys who are moving the indoor are killing it, but majority of guys are looking for good greenhouse,
Value.
and a lot of them actually are still keen on even crappy outdoor. Some each to their own, I guess.
Whatever fits the pocket.
Whatever fits the
Depends on
pocket. So ultimately, it's creating an avenue for multiple levels of growers and for guys to kind of stay in their lane or move over if they so wish. Yeah.
Which is good.
It's great, man. It's setting a good precedent, and it's a nice community of guys. Like I love the fact that there's a whole family that spawns from a cooperative like this. If you go to an event where all the clubs rock up, it's like there's Tiny Town, there's Zava, there's the Joint, there's the Toka. So everyone's rocking up, everyone's caring, it's
And they're promoting each other, and helping each other along. That's
we had
the
a
best thing
cannabis
about
golf
it.
day, so Dave will tell you all about it. So he hosted a cannabis golf day about a month and a half ago, and it was a jewel. Yes, it was so much fun. It was really. It was
a good one, eh?
Yeah, he had more than enough prize. Every single person that played won a prize. Every single, if you were last or first, didn't matter.
Everybody won a prize.
Yeah.
Everyone.
And then literally, like they had nice little activation stations on each hole, and some dab and all kinds of stuff. So it was really such a nice vibe, and it was such a cool way. So they actually invited the guys from the Hawks, the crime intelligence unit, that actually played in our football.
Okay,
So, no, it was great because we wanted to show them, look, it's not a bunch of hooligans, it's a bunch of guys having a good time.
Yeah.
And they sat in the after party, and they really enjoyed it. Obviously, they didn't partake or anything, but it's great to see, and I thought
That's how you break it.
That's how you break the stigma.
Exactly. And it was
Involving the
such a
opposite.
joy.
It's like this one club that we did last week. It's a Catholic church that just
Pastor
opened-
Mark.
Yeah, Pastor Mark.
I love that man.
And I love his whole
what
story.
he's doing is phenomenal, okay? Because in hindsight, what he's doing is he's fixing an alcohol-riddled community using cannabis.
Yeah, and feeding 280 children.
I-
A lot of
That's
people are
really
getting in on the
impressive.
industry.
I take
But
my
what are
hat
you
off- I
doing
take my
with
hat
that,
off to
man?
that guy.
Creating
I think-
jobs with
I
cannabis.
think
Look at what
it
he's
takes-
doing.
Yeah, it takes a strong mental cue to do what that man does.
Yeah.
I take my hat off to him. He's phenomenal.
So that's also true. Can you imagine the stigma? If you like a lot of these
Conservative
I don't want to
cows.
say like Christian, but like conservative people, they don't listen to anybody. But if it's a priest that's saying these things, then
And the
it
thing is,
immediately
what you can
sense of
also-
authority.
Yeah.
it immediately changes that aspect in their brains.
And I
So-
saw there was an article on Huisgenoot about CBD.
A lot of these, like, I don't want to say Christian.
My-
and then he'll like whoop something out like, Jesus smoked weed. And then what do you say to this pastor? Like,
Cool.
Just to fill in with Pope's question there is like, okay, you can become a growing member. Now, say now I want to open my own tiny town or my own club. I now smart what's happening here. What's the steps I have to take? Like,
So you reach out to Grow in Africa, and they set up a first consult with you.
they set up a
Yeah, but they bring their
consultation.
whole team. So
Okay.
they
They
have to
explain
go through
everything,
the
the
whole-
accounting, the compliancy, the cultivation.
So you'll
everything.
build
And
your
then they
club.
guide you
So
through
they run
the
you
whole
through the whole
process.
thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's time, bro.
You'll have to
What do you
build your
think this
space.
is?
I'm down for the family vibes. I'm just into not wasting too much time. That's why I came to Tiny Town, because I don't want to go around compliance. That's why this is good for me. 'Cause
So one
I
thing
have an
about it
environment
is
where
the
I
cannabis
can do
industry
what
is
I
not
want
a
to do
get
with
rich quick
cannabis
thing.
And meet people that are... No, it's not about getting rich quick. I'm saying I'm in an environment where I can do what I want to
And
do
then-
and be happy and smoke
And not be
cannabis
compliant.
And be compliant.
No, what he's saying is if you want to set up a club, like it's a major part of it. That's what his question was. Yeah.
And also, this is just like any other business. You can have 5 years of grunt work and grinding before you start
Reap the
seeing
benefits.
a
And not
proper
only
return,
that, you have to firmly understand that if you have a club like this, you can't do much else because your time has to be here. Any successful restaurant works because the owner is there all
and
the
it's
time.
hands
Not
on
the
them.
manager, the owner.
Yeah.
One thing I have to note about the cannabis industry, like if you look at all these establishments, they're still very young in infancy stage, but I pick up like when he said he built all this shit like within a year with his hands, then it made me really reflect back on what's happening in our space. It's the same. You have all these people working together and shit's happening.
And
Bro.
it's just
Like
hormonal.
things are
They're
just
changing.
working
Exactly.
productive. So things are happening faster. Like
And
if you, in comparison
sorry, man, just
to
to
other
get back to the
industries.
questions and the things. Before you decided you're going to now become a recruiter in the cannabis industry, what made you decide to?
So I met the Jules and Motor when I was 21, which was in 2011. I used to be an active drinker, and then a good friend of mine was in a car accident about 2 weeks before him and I were supposed to go to university in Potchefstroom because he was driving with someone who was drunk. Long story short, it completely put me off to drinking. No, he was fine eventually. He recovered nicely. Like, it was a long story, but he was fine eventually. But it just put me off the concept of drinking and driving. And then I just kind of found cannabis because I'm actively a social person. I don't need alcohol to like sit and talk cock with people. The sun comes up. And then I come from the advertising industry originally, so I reached out to a bunch of guys and started building brands. And then I gained notoriety within the industry of just being able to like build cool stuff. I'll explain to you guys the better context once the camera is on. But ultimately it led to a lot of me just wanting to work in this industry. And then when lockdown happened, I ran a small agency and I was just over it. And then I kind of quit. And then ultimately I ran my first course at Chiba. I was one of their first students. And then just kind of saw a gap in recruitment because no one else is doing business to business services. You understand? Everyone is so narrowed down on growing extraction, but they don't understand that a commercial facility is a business.
Many different
elements. Yes, and it just sucked that I was speaking to a lot of growers that literally got their fingers burnt beyond all recognition. So I definitively saw a need to help people because I love working with people. And the amount of people that I've met in the last year while starting this business has been phenomenal. Not only from talent-wise, but just the stories that you hear and people that have literally benefited so much from this plant that completely changed their life. And I get a lot of messages from people saying, what you're doing is great because I really want to work in this industry. So it's good to see that I'm getting, a lot of support from the community itself, which is awesome. Yeah, so just trying
finally
to
something professional.
We're trying to, bro, and the thing is, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. So like our commission structures and stuff is the same as any recruitment company for any other industry. You understand? Because again, what I believe what's very annoying about cannabis is people try and put this plant on a pedestal. So they're trying to reinvent structures that are there for any other commercial agricultural crop.
Basically just
you understand? But because it's cannabis, it has to be like the special little
And now they kind of want to milk it.
Yes, and they're trying to reinvent the wheel on many things that shouldn't be reinvented. You know what I mean? And
It's already working.
It's infuriating, to be honest. Because they're trying to overcomplicate something that could have been in place months ago and it could have been rock and rolling.
True.
Yeah.
Very true.
So
And for the new people getting into the industry, if you had a couple of words of advice, what would you reckon that is? If you had a positive message?
I think I'll break it down into a couple of points. Like one, you have to start networking yourself. Okay. Now that there are more events happening and there's more clubs up and running, really get out there. And be very humble in your approach. Like a lot of the things that you learn in this industry, you only learn by actually talking to people and being, very open with them and saying, listen, I don't understand this. And I think that's what kind of set me apart from the beginning because there's a lot of things that I didn't know. So I laid myself bare to a lot of people and said, listen, I don't understand this. Please explain this to me. And once you get into that rhythm, you really start appreciating the journey of cannabis and you kind of realize that we've barely scraped the surface of what we know about this plant. In every aspect of the word, how we cultivate it, the genetics, packaging, what we can derive it from.
Maybe 50 years now of
not
research.
Even. Yeah, we haven't even scraped the surface. One, networking is very, very important. Two, finding what you're passionate about, because just saying you enjoy the plant is a very relative term. You really have to find something that's going to set you apart and carve your own space in the sunlight. And then three, be curious. I think that's the third thing. A lot of people are wrapped up in their own knowledge and their own. There's no perfect way to grow cannabis. There's no set method, and that's the end all be all. So you must be very open to new ideas and new ways of looking at things. And I think fourth is I've always said to people, you should not overthink it. You should look at any basic product or any basic idea and see how you can put a cannabis twist on it.
Okay. Yes,
instead of reinventing the wheel. So I think if you do those four things, you'll be on the right track.
Well done.
That's excellent.
That was really good. Well spoken there. That's very cool.
In Egypt, they used hemp. They made papyrus reed, which was out of hemp. The first paper in the world. So it's actually been used for economic use.
Napoleon burned the Italians and the French's. Not the Italians. He burned the Italian and the Spanish's hemp fields, and that's why he won the war in Waterloo, because the English couldn't make enough boats and sails to get their full troops over.
But they had money. Egyptians were the richest economy.
I read the funniest thing yesterday. The only reason why the pyramids are in Egypt is because it's too heavy for the British to take it back to their museums.
You know, the very first sales that was ever made was made out of hemp. So you can kind of say that the hemp plant brought people across the world.
Well, Buddha meditated for 40 days and all he ate was one hemp grain a day and underneath off the water that fell off the leaves.
Because I know the first paper money was in Asia.
Yeah.
And Africa, Africa.
I actually done very interesting yesterday, right? If you look at every single drug that you consume, right, from tobacco to heroin, right, everything has a very quick recycle rate of how quickly your body pushes it out, right? So if you look at MDMA, 24 hours, LSD, 24 hours, cannabis, 45 days. Because your body actually wants it. You understand? It wants to absorb as much of it before it actually sends it out. And when I thought about that holistically, I was like, it actually makes perfect sense. Like, why would it stick so much more than anything else? Things are so much harder technically, you know?
Yeah.
It's very interesting to think about that.
Cannabinoid receptors in the body.
Our bodies have evolved for cannabis, you know.
So do you have any more questions?
Here's a lucky one for you. If you had to choose one thing that was like the most important thing that you've learned out of your whole cannabis experience, sorry, excuse me, out of your whole cannabis experience, what would you say that is?
Vet your circle.
Vet your circle.
Know the people that you're
Explain that. Okay.
You don't need a lot of people to do a lot of things in this industry. You need a small group of people that really know what they're doing, that are level-headed, and that can actually push your business forward.
Okay.
People try to split themselves too thin. Okay, years ago, it was very like, you know, Band of Brothers, us against the man. Now it's like Game of Thrones because this market is actually opening up. All the talk is now gone. Do you understand? It's not pipeline dreaming, it's not pie in the sky stuff. The Olympics are coming. Do you understand? The Olympics are coming. So it's very important for you to know who you're working with. And that'll eventually be the difference between you making and not making it.
Yes.
So I spend a lot of personal time vetting the people that I work with, their track record, etc. So it just makes you a lot stronger as a business or an individual. And what people tend to forget is this is a PR game. Your reputation is everything. It's a very small circle.
Everything. It's a lot about self-marketing.
You understand?
Well,
and who you engage with and how you conduct yourself and what your vision is within this industry is incredibly important. That's why it's very important that before you present yourself in this industry, know what you're about and know what you want to do. Because there's nothing worse than a drifter.
And also stick to your mission.
The best analogy that I've ever gotten is imagine the cannabis industry as a braai. Okay? I bring the dessert, he brings the starters, you bring the meat. Now there's some people that'll rock up at a braai with nothing. And if they think if they stay long enough, people will share their meat with them.
Yeah.
And that's not the case.
That's not the case. You have to bring something
to this braai. So
you
must be very clear about what you're bringing to this braai. Otherwise, don't come. Because people will very quickly see that you have nothing in your hands.
Yeah.
You understand? And a lot of people have that problem. They have no idea where they fit in this new model. So before you present yourself, go do that homework. Find out who you want to be and what you
know
want
where
to be.
you want to go with it.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
You can't just ask for stuff and not know what you want.
Exactly.
Know what you want.
Because there's so many posers.
Well said.
One of my clients actually said, you must always remember, grass always attracts snakes.
Yeah.
You're hectic.
Look,
as much as there's a lot of help in this industry, because making CBD, extracting oils, like that's already millions for just...
Millions, bro. There's so many ways, eh?
No, not to make it, for just the equipment.
Yeah.
So, people take this stuff seriously.
We're not even making South African machinery yet. You know, like the trimmers and the stuff. Okay, here's one. This is more like a political, I don't want to say political, but in that line. Legislation-wise, do you feel that South Africa is kind of doing a good thing with legislation-wise, or do you reckon there's things you would change about it?
Well, obviously, if you look at it in three major tiers, you have recreational, you have industrial, and then you have medical, right? So, in recreational, I really think that these social clubs should be taken into effect. I really think it could be a major economic stimulation for this industry, and not only for the industry, for the country as a whole. Industrial, I think they really need to just refine certain parameters with regards to hemp and really focus on creating a good internal seed bank for South Africa and allowing guys to cultivate their own genetics here. I mean, with medical, I don't know. My main thing about these three industries, right, is you can do whatever you want as long as your price point doesn't mess with another industry. You understand? If you're going to come for medical cannabis, you can't price of the same as what you find in a social club because it will ruin this whole model.
Yeah.
You understand? So if you want to make 220 Rand discount dagga, please, by all means, but it has to be in that bracket.
Yeah.
Do you understand? I personally believe that no self-respecting stoner will buy their weed at a discount, but that's just me. And I believe that that'll turn out, medical will basically turn out to be like the incredible connection of cannabis. It's where everyone else is going to go before they know where to go.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Because now you're going to be like, I need a prescription, I need all these things, where I can just walk into a social club, self-medicate myself, and Bob's your uncle.
And then you're also more supporting the local
and I think
growers.
it's going to take a while before you get proper buy-in from all the insurance companies, because that's the only way the medical cannabis is going to run through, is if the medical aid's back it. So I think on that front, I think there's a lot of people knocking on the right doors. I think there's a lot of people fighting the good fight when it comes to legislation. And I just hope that the government is open to listening to people that actually understand what's going on with this model. Because we also have to set a good standard for other African countries.
Yes.
Do you understand? Because I believe if we set a good foundation here, within the next 2 years, all those neighboring countries will come to us, not only for skills training, for advice, which will offer up a great opportunity for guys to go work over in neighboring countries. So if we play our cards right, we could be at the forefront of South Africa, or African cannabis, very quickly.
And I personally believe that Africa is going to become the supplier for the rest of the world. Because
between that and Latin America, I think we have a very good chance. Between our labor forces, our land, and access to infrastructure.
Been working for the plants.
It's all based on what your production cost per gram is, and the Americans and Canadians can't beat our prices. They don't have the land, they don't have the sunlight, they don't have the labor. I'll give you guys that proper ratio when the camera is.
Yeah, they just had a hurricane there.
And yes, you see that thing, bro. Kentucky is fact.
Jeez, Joe,
dude, it's so bad.
I need to go check that out.
There's nothing. There's nothing. I saw a video of a woman standing in her room, like all the lights are off, obviously, right? And then as the lightning hits, ek lief my bro, dit is 'n tornado wat ek nooit in my lewe so groot gesien het. En loop the whole city, there's niks nie. Nie een gebou het gemaak nie. Imagine die hele Pretoria weg.
God.
What's that?
Gone.
Jeez.
Gone. It's crazy. It's a town in Kentucky.
Shit, so the whole population's gone.
Well, most of them, no. So a lot of those tornado-built cities have like bunkers underneath the houses.
Yeah.
But you walk up to nothing.
Let me just check if I've asked all the
the
goods. The average Joe, if you can just say, how can the average person help to break the stigma, kind of etiquette-wise? If you want to just add something on that.
I think there's a very big stigma around active stoners, people who can consume cannabis on a day-to-day and still be a functioning member of society. I think there's a major stigma of if I smoke this cannabis, I'm on that couch for 8 hours. So I think people that are active cannabis users and do actually should tell people about it, and show
and
that
don't lie on the freaking couch and smoke weed
I've
all day.
had numerous opportunities where guys look at me and be like, "Are you stoned at the moment?" I'm like, "Fuck yes," and they're like, "I can't even tell." They're like, "How are you here? How are you doing
How are you
this?"
operating?
Do you understand? And that's the kind of annoyance that I think we need to beat. Because essentially, if we our next generation will become parents eventually, right? And I want to be in a house where if a parent brings their kid over and they see a jar of cannabis, they shouldn't think for a second that I'm smoking in front of that kid, or that kid has access to the cannabis, whatever the case may be, because that's next generation. We are going to be the generation that are pro cannabis and that will have cannabis in our houses, and our kids will grow up next to it. They'll know not to touch it, and we won't smoke it in front of them. That's what we kind of need to gear towards. I think
responsible use.
Responsible use. Ultimately.
Responsible use.
Because I think that's where the biggest problem lies. They think after one drag it's already irresponsible. And I also find it very funny that people who have a bad experience with cannabis won't try it again, but they've had multiple bad experiences with alcohol, but they'll try that again.
And most bad experiences with cannabis is from alcohol.
I had a very interesting argument with a guy once who I don't drink. And he's like, "Why don't you?" It's like, well, if you look at every drug, let's say from tobacco all the way to heroin, you know what the one common denominator is? Alcohol is the only one that makes you forget. So any psychological drama that you're dealing with, you have a better chance of reaching an end path using any other method besides alcohol. Because all you're doing is just putting a plaster over a wound that doesn't heal.
Forget it for a couple of days.
You understand? And that mechanism for people is very frightening.
Just those few minutes or hours when
it's conquering of demons. Do you understand? And for alcoholics, they don't want to do that necessarily because they're so wrapped up in this vice that tomorrow will be a better day, but it won't. Because you're still sitting with this demon on your back. Instead of finding any other constructive avenue to try and resolve that. If you look at drug addiction, I always find this very interesting. That guy who was David Nutt, I think is his name.
who's like a addiction specialist. He said, we're looking at addiction completely wrong. If you are on something like MDMA, you shouldn't be asking why did you take it. You should ask that person, what feelings did you have in that moment that you're not getting in your normal life? Yeah. Did you feel important? Did you feel beautiful? Did you feel like wanted? What are all these things that this drug is supplementing for you that you're not getting in your life? And that's how they should constructively look at cannabis use or alcohol use or any other use for that matter. What are you relaxing within yourself that needs attention? So I think that's a very interesting concept people need to start looking at, because we've had a lot of guys here that are reformed alcoholics that have now found cannabis and their partners are happy. You understand? They're more inquisitive, they're more talkative, they're more open with their emotions, they're not aggressive, they can actually go out for a night and know it's not going to end up in a huge fight. It's a huge social dynamic that we're slowly but surely turning the wheel on, and I feel that's very, very important. I like the fact that I can now walk into most places, stand outside and smoke a joint and no one bats an eye. Yes, I'm not smoking within the place, but the owner says yes, stand back, no problem.
There's some criminal that has
no, and no one gives you a funny look when you walk in, and I believe that's, you know, us who are older than 25, we would never have dreamt of having this in our lifetime in South Africa.
You told me 10 years ago that we'd be chilling, smoking cannabis open and say, yeah, you're crazy.
You're crazy. So it's great, and it's actually quite funny. I was the first couple of weeks I was in here, I'll never forget it. I was sitting in a bunch of lighties walking rugby, 21-year-old tukkies, boykies, and they're buying, they're getting the indoor, and they sit down in front of me and I look at them and all of a sudden I'm just like, fuck you guys. And the guy's like, what? I'm like, you don't understand the shit that we went through to get to this point. You guys can literally walk in here and be like, donkey. I had to wait in a corner of a dodgy street for a guy who sees my car, who clearly doesn't see my car, and get seed weed in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, get home, maybe
get arrested.
Maybe smoke benzene, who knows. I am a firm believer that anyone who has been smoking cannabis for longer than 10 years, there's a very micro chance that we've accidentally smoked heroin. Then you cannot tell me in 10 years of black market weed, I have not gotten a bankie that was lying next to some meth or somewhere. You know what I mean? So inherently, I must have done this by proxy. Exactly.
Well, Lourie, I think that's it for our questions. Thank you so much. You're a super good talker, and you've once again helped us out a lot. You know, it's hard to get the context.
If you need anything, we'll also brief well, man.
Thank you, bro.
Great information.
Okay, I have some 60% THC distillate. You guys want to get some like really fucking high?
That was fucking awesome. That was a good interview.
Yeah, well, the time here was absolutely amazing. I mean, the space is really cool. I could sit here all day, every day. If I had the time to, I would, really. And the people here were super accommodating, and everything worked out so well for us, to be honest. We met these cute folks here, and lekker.
Yeah, Pope and Willis.
Skateboarding show, so yeah, man. So, no, good times, Anything you guys would like to say about the place?
No, it's a really amazing place. Nice to see that the Goa clubs are running on the let's say, same vibe. Because it's all, everyone can just come, be happy, smoke their weed and everything, just enjoy their time. Nice place environment.
Safe environment, feel comfortable, everyone's accommodating, you're not very friendly and kind.
Drinks and the food, awesome, delicious.
No bad vibes, it was sick seeing all these nice people and seeing the passion shared with everyone.
So massive thanks to the people here of the Tiny Town. Stefan and Moses, they are awesome, very accommodating, and yes, man, thanks for having us.
Yeah, also Lourie,
legendary,
and Willis for skateboarding,
and also Pope for sharing the experience with us, joining us.
If you guys ever need banking advice, bro.
Banking advice, this is your man.
This is the guy. Or if you need to get out, it's him.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Cool. Okay, so nou is ons headed to Crossroads Lounge.
Yeah.